Welcome back everyone. The new season just dropped recently and today I'm going to be going over my review of it and the update. There's so much controversy about this update just because of the power level scaling and hypercharge and all of that crazy stuff that's been going on. So I'm going to get to the bottom of that, give my opinion on it, and also show some ways that Supercell could do some things better and showing where they did good, And at the end of the episode, I'll be giving the update ranking as a whole. So let's get straight into it. Starting off with probably the most controversial part of the update, which is Hypercharge. And now you unlock Hypercharge at level 11, and they moved the gear that was at power 11 to power 8. I'm sure you already know all of this, but oh, that was a great change for sure. Like, Kairos has been talking about it for a while, where you really should be able to unlock gears earlier in the game just because they're so simple, and it really doesn't change the progression at all. It just changes when you unlock the thing as far as power levels, and you still have to spend the same amount of gold to upgrade, so I think that's a great change. But then the cost. It's 9,600 for the collector's pack, but then if you wait for 2 weeks, it's 5,000 coins. And to put this in perspective, if you want to buy the Hypercharge for 5,000 coins, that's a 39% increase in how many coins it takes to upgrade a Brawler. And that's with 1-star power gadget and gear, or 2 gears. And if you buy the collector's pack, it's even way more. You spend 1 3/4 times the amount of coins that you normally would. The progression is buffed by 75% coin-wise for maxing out a Brawler, which is pretty crazy. I really think that that's just... it adds way too much progression. In a way, it's like adding more levels just because coins is the limiting factor in upgrading people. Like, I almost always have enough power points. I'm always low on coins, and now they added this. But honestly, I think they're going to address that in the next update. I very, very rarely have seen them add something that costs coins or whatnot without buffing the progression to that. So I really think they have a plan in the future to give more coins to players, but hopefully I'm right. And then for the actual gameplay of Hypercharge, it doesn't feel very skill-based. It kind of feels like more levels to me. Somewhat. It's kind of a mix between the two. I'd like to compare it kind of to gadgets, where you click the gadget and it's like it actually takes skill to use the gadget. Like Brock's gadget, you jump over walls with it, you can dodge shots. There's all different types of gadgets, and it adds a completely new depth to the game. Where Hypercharge, it's like you click a button and you get more stats, and your super's a little bit bigger. And just because of those levels, you outplay your opponent. And there is some skill to it as to when you click it and how you play it when you're using the Hypercharge. And there actually is a good amount of skill to that, but not nearly as much as I would like to see. It feels a little bit like levels, which I don't really like. And it discourages me from actually getting them because they're not as fun. I mean, fun things to me are things that take a lot of skill to use, and when it's just a whole bunch of levels that I have to grind, it's not very fun. So the way that I originally thought Hypercharge was going to be, when they sneak peeked it, I made an episode about it actually, so if you want to listen or watch that, you can. But what I thought they were going to release it as it starts charging up after you have your supercharge, and it adds like a huge ability, like or a trait to the super, as well as it gives you a stat buff for the next few seconds. I really think the way that I predicted it might actually end up with a better version of Hypercharge, and the reason I think that is because it doesn't give you a competitive advantage if it's balanced. And by that I mean you can either charge your normal super a few times, otherwise you can wait after you've charged up your super to charge up your Hypercharge super, and then use the Hypercharge super, which does tons of damage and has an extra trait to it, and that would add a ton of depth to the game. Like, trying to figure out when to use that Hypercharge super, when to save up for your Hypercharge super, and when to try to cycle supers. And as a secondary advantage, it doesn't really add levels to the game, because you still can outplay people with Hypercharge supers with normal supers. But why I think it could actually be worse and why they did it the way they did is because it is not way more fun, but it is a little bit more fun to do it the way they did, where you just get a Hypercharge and it doesn't affect anything else. Like, you're not stopped from using your normal super. You don't have to make a choice between your normal super and your Hypercharge super, which isn't a fun choice to make. You can just mindlessly charge up your Hypercharge, click it, and then go crazy and have tons of fun. So those are the two reasons that really I think they did it the way they did. I'm no developer, but just from first glance, I think the way I suggested it originally may be better than what is currently in the game. One thing they really do need to change with Hypercharge, though, whether or not they make this change or not, is they need to make the Hypercharge supers more unique. And by that, I mean they have to do something cool that changes how the super is actually used. A completely different gameplay mechanic. For example, you could have Spike Super, like, use Fertilize all the time on allies. So, like, Spike Super heals people that are inside of it. Or Cold Super does twice the damage to pets that it would normally do. Or something like that. Something that changes how you actually use the super and, yeah, makes it better instead of just having a bigger super. Moving on to the level scaling changes. There are actually not very many people talking about this, which I'm very surprised by, but they changed the percentage of stats that you gain from each level from 5% to 10% buff per level. For example, the Power 11 stats now are exactly twice the Power 1 stats. So when a Power 1 Shelly has 3,700 health, a Power 11 Shelly has 7,400 health. And that is an insane difference. Like, I do not want to be playing under-leveled brawlers now. It is just going to be so hard. Just think about that. Power 1 Shelly against Power 11 Shelly. You have to hit twice the shots. And then you don't even have as much health. So you have to hit even more than twice the shots to do the same amount of damage that they are doing. And that's not to mention gears, gadgets, star powers, and Hypercharge now that you all unlock later in the game that a Power 1 Shelly isn't going to have. There's so much of an advantage to powering up your brawler now. And I understand why they did this. They wanted to make leveling up more impactful and exciting, but I really don't think it's going to make much of a change in that way. I think if people like spam level up their brawlers, then they'll notice it. Even now, if you just upgrade your brawler 1 or 2 levels at a time, it's really not going to make much of a difference, which means there isn't going to be much of a hype to upgrading brawlers. I really don't like this change. It makes a little bit of sense as to why they would want it monetization wise and make upgrading a little bit more fun, especially for people who upgrade a lot on one brawler at the same time. And with good matchmaking, like matchmaking that actually puts you with people that are around the same power level, this would be a really, really good change. And actually that's what I want to talk about next, which is matchmaking. So I don't actually want to talk about matchmaking directly, I just want to talk about the changes they made to the mode rotations. So a few changes were made to improve the matchmaking times. Specifically, Hot Zone, Heist, and Bounty were completely removed from ladder. And then Heist and Hot Zone will be in rotation with the other weekend events like Big Game, Boss Fight, and Rumble, along with a quest for 500 tokens like normal. And this means that there's only going to be 4 trophy event slots left. And if this really improved the quality of matchmaking, I think it would be a great change. And as I said in the patch notes, they are really focusing only on the higher trophy players, which I don't really understand. I mean, it's a good change, but the matchmaking isn't only flawed at high trophies. It's very flawed between about the 600 to 900, 1000 range, where there's a lot of people that are being underleveled, overleveled. There's people that are way higher skilled than others, and just all types of bad randoms and stuff in that range. And it's really annoying to play. And there really wasn't any matchmaking time problems with that. So I really think that's just a problem they're waiting to solve for a later date. And right now they just wanted to change the problem for high trophy players not having, or having way too much matchmaking time, which makes sense. And honestly, I'm totally fine with them removing those few modes from rotation. And then finally, I want to talk about the 2 new brawlers that are coming out, and they absolutely killed it with these brawlers. Like, they are insane, especially Chuck. But Pearl, which is a lesser of the two, in my opinion at least, as far as being fun to play, her shots are like pretty similar to Pam, but that's really the only thing she resembles to anyone else. The rest of her mechanics are very, very fun to play with, and it's going to be fun to try to master her and how to use that charge bar that does more damage. But one thing they definitely should have done is have her title be Let Me Cook. Like, I would have done anything to get that title. That would be a great title. But the current one is Just Do It, which is really dumb, and I'm never gonna want it. So they really should have made it Let Me Cook. I really want that Supercell. And then Chuck, which is definitely going to be the more fun of the two in my opinion, just because his super is so unique and his whole kit is made around his super, and he gets it so often and he can use it in so many different ways. Like, it deals damage and knock back enemies when it's placed. One of his gadgets removes a post, another lets him travel through walls, and his star powers do stuff too. And he starts with a super even, just like Sam. So he, in general, is going to have a really, really high skill cap. And his super is going to be so hard to use, and I absolutely love it. As a whole, this update is like very large for when it came out in the year. But also probably because of that, it feels rushed. Like, everything they did, they could have done a little better. Except for Chuck. Chuck is just fun, and I don't see how he could be any better. But everything else could have been at least a little bit better. So overall, I'm going to give the update a rating of 6 out of 10. And that's mostly because of the power scaling and hypercharge. I think they did some things quite well, and as long as they're able to fix some of the flaws in this update in the future, then I'm very happy with it. Like, when I first saw this update and Hypercharge, the Brawl talk and everything, I thought it was going to be terrible. But as more time went on, it got a little bit better and better. And Hypercharge hard charges are actually fun to play. So if you couldn't tell, I am trying lots of different styles of recording, editing, putting music in the background, gameplay, all of that types of stuff, just to see what works best for me, so that I can not use tons of time making one episode like I have been, and making better quality content and better content, more content in general. But if you want to leave any feedback, you can either leave it in the YouTube's comment section, or if you're on some other platform, just send me an email or join the Discord, both of which are in the description. And also, I do have a Patreon if you want to support me there. That would be great. All of that money goes to me making more episodes, better episodes, possibly buying more equipment, but overall just using more time on these episodes so I can get more content and better quality content out to you. So with that, thank you for listening. God bless, and have a great rest of your day. See you in the next one.